this is me, Maiden. I just had to capture this because, oh my God, look at the sun. Literally, the sun's on my shoulder. It's always exciting to me when I'm out here by myself and it's just the peace and quiet of this forest. And I'm able to capture it on video. I don't know how long or how much longer I'll be living here, so I have to embrace it and enjoy it while I have it. And wow, let's look at the sun. I wanted to do some sun gazing while I'm out here. I have to just not care if people look at me, because that's one of my challenges, I guess, is to overcome that concern of what people think. I wonder if I can go down this way. I'm gonna try. So this is my little spot in the woods. I'm sure it's not just mine, but anyway, I like this spot, and usually I can come here and find some peace and solace and gather my thoughts. I was trying to record a video in my room, and it just wasn't working. I currently live with my daughter, her baby. Oh, there's all these squirrels here today. Hi, hello guys. And now they just all scattered because I'm here. I didn't mean to disturb your peace, little ones. I came here to get some peace. So I like to come here and think about what this area must have been like in the, what would have been 18th century? Yeah, 18th century. 18th and 19th century, I guess, is what this would probably date back to. I love history and it absolutely fascinates me. I watch all of these abandoned videos and I'm like, I want to go to an abandoned house and record inside. Like, I've wanted to do that, and if you notice, it's mostly guys doing that. And I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense because for safety reasons, it's probably not that safe to do that as a female, especially by yourself. But, I've tried to enlist my daughter to come with me, and, we could bring weapons if needed. I carry pepper spray. I think I'm going to have to invest in some bear spray, because pepper spray I don't think will do the trick if there's multiple people. But anyway, I digress, as I tend to do, because I have ADD, so I probably will go off topic. But what I wanted to come here and talk about, since I can't get a groove going in my room where I'm trying to record, I just wanted to talk about, well, while I'm out here in nature, it's going to seem out of place, I guess, because, well, maybe not. I mean, the earth is our home. And I wanted to discuss homes, housing, homelessness. As I look here and I'm surrounded by these trees and this beautiful setting, there's no other way to think about it other than, our forefathers, ancestors, whatever you want to call them. They all had to have a vision in order to build something like this, something so magnificent in its time. I'm sure if this was a building of habitation, or if it was just simply mechanical, like it was to help them run the mill, because there was a mill that used to be here, and I don't know if this was actually part of the mill here, if they stored I really don't know. I mean, I can only speculate. I envisioned this to be someone's home at one point, but the water, we're kind of down, like there's a hill that goes down, and so possibly this was just part of the mill. But, in my fantasy, it was someone's home, and this was the stream in their home, and, these were the trees here that may have very well cut down some of these trees here for logging and, well, obviously to build fires. And my kids and I were talking about it last time we were down here, thinking about, well, what kind of animals would they have eaten, or how would they have lived off the vegetation here? And I think they would have eaten, obviously, squirrels and rabbits. There's many, many, many birds here, and turtles, I guess, in the summertime and spring, I guess. I'm not too sure. But anyway, I wanted to keep going on this thought because I'll get to the point of the video. The point of the video is housing, homelessness, and the need for affordable housing in my area. I currently live in an apartment that I absolutely hate, and I have tried my best to come to terms with, well, I can find somewhere else to live, and this is only temporary, but I've been here now since the beginning of 2020, and it has been the bane of my existence to live there. I can't even tell you. I can't even begin. I've made a few videos, one about the leaking bathroom. I just recently did a review of the apartments on Yelp, well, Yelp, and also Google reviews. And the investor who owns the property I live at, which is, I don't know, over 250 plus apartments. More than 250, I don't even know. There's many, many, many apartments where I live. There's an investor who okay, I gotta make sure I don't have something creeping up on me. Like, seriously, that sounded like a snake. Am I tripping? What the heck was that? I swear I heard it like, well, I don't know. Hopefully it's not a snake. If it's a snake, it'll be on video. There are definitely snakes out here. That scared the shit out of me. I know there's stuff out here. Trust me, I know because I've seen snakes out here, and I know most of them are probably fine and harmless, and I don't really have a fear of animals, but I have a somewhat trepidation, let's just say, about snakes. Only because I think they're unpredictable, just like dogs and stuff. I mean, squirrels, frogs, turtles, yeah, birds, you can kind of predict what they're going to do, but snakes, just like dogs, you never know. I love dogs too, by the way. I love all animals. I am very much a nature person, but as much as I am a nature person, I also like to be pretty and have my nails done and look like a girl, so there's that. Anyway, that's kind of scared me, so now I'm not as comfortable as I was. But I know you guys heard it too on the video, whatever it was. I think it was a bird or something, but I don't know. I can never be too careful. They were here before I was, so I can't really blame them or fault them. Oh, but you know what I just noticed? So here I am, my ADD, but look, those rocks, stones, I guess you would say, those were all set up like pretty stacked like these the last couple times I came here. So I don't know if people have been disturbing this. I don't know why they would. I mean, there's nothing, it's all covered in grass and moss, and they're just stones, so I don't know why anybody would mess with it, but I wish they wouldn't. I wish they would just leave it. But that's sometimes how people act. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the shame of, well, I mean, I did recently see something regarding shame of poverty, also the shame of eviction and homelessness. There isn't a shame, a sense of shame that's associated with that. And I think it needs to be addressed because it shouldn't be looked upon as shame. It should be looked upon as a community or society problem. If we cannot house our fellow people that live around us, what does it say about us? I mean, I think that's where the individual versus the community comes in. I think we owe others and ourselves the forethought or the empathy to care about others and their needs. No, it can't be one person's responsibility to house everyone, and that's not what I'm saying here. Nor am I trying to play any kind of victim, but I would like to just pinpoint or point out my experience in housing and why it's continuing to be an issue or a problem. I recently, well, when 2020 happened, I was employed as a property manager, actually, ironically enough. And I've been working in and around real estate communities, real estate companies, jobs, whatever. I've had jobs in real estate. And the property management job I had, it was my job to place desirable tenants into homes that were owned by our clients. So our clients were the people who owned the homes, and our clients were also the tenants who we placed in there. So it was my job. Oh, those are baby squirrels, I think. Oh, those are baby squirrels or baby birds. Aw. Anyway, I'm not going to get too close. I don't want to scare the squirrels away. That's why the squirrels got all freaked out when I came over here. I'm not going to bother your squirrel babies. So this is why I wanted to record it in my room, because I would have been able to at least focus a little bit. I think those are birds, but I don't know. I think they might be squirrels. Anyway, either way, they're babies, and I'm not going to mess with them at all, and I hope their mommy doesn't leave them, or daddy, or whoever takes care of them. So I feel like, there was a point in time, I had to evict someone. In the short time I was employed at that job, I had to evict a woman, and she was very much just like me. It was like she was probably in her 30s or 40s. She had a bunch of kids. Most of them were older and grown. And I think at least one or two of them was in school or something like that. They had a big, huge townhouse that could house all of them. And it was in very bad disrepair. It was messed up. It was dirty. It was, like they hadn't been caring for it. And she was months and months behind on the rent. And I was judging her because that was my job. It was my job to judge, well, why would you go all that time without paying rent? And you have all these people living with you, and, there was clear in the basement, it was clear that a baby lived there because there was a high chair and, baby things. And it was just really sad, and it was horrible because not only was she not paying the rent, but the person who owned the home wasn't doing any repairs. So it was like a cycle. She wasn't paying anything, and the owner wasn't doing any repairs. And that's currently the situation I'm in, again, once again. Now, this was 2 years ago, so it was almost like a glimpse into my future if I didn't make certain adjustments or changes in my life. And it really involved the other people in my life too, because I had to not only be responsible and accountable for my own needs and responsibilities, but also hold other people accountable and responsible. And I wasn't really pushing my kids too hard to get jobs, and because I knew myself that it sucks to work a job you hate and be in the job pool basically, and like beg people for $10-15 an hour when all you're doing is making money just to pay again for a place that you barely you don't want to live at. It's just a never-ending cycle basically, and I wanted to try some way, shape, or form to avoid my kids getting involved in that, and I didn't know how to do it, and I kept coming back to square one. I kept coming back to, well, maybe if it's your own place and it's yours, you'll take care of it because it's on you. I mean, if the toilet breaks, you got to fix it. If the sink breaks, you got to fix it. And that all comes into pride of ownership. And when you are renting from someone, that's not there. I mean, it's taken out of the equation. As well as if you're renting from someone and they don't live there, let's say it's an investor or someone who's very disengaged with the whole process, the home will dilapidate and fall apart and be eventually like this place, with just a bunch of rocks or bricks or wood or whatever the home's made of. So my thinking is just I read that something I'd never heard about. There was a bill that was trying to be passed in 2021 that states a home shouldn't be a privilege. Well, this was something that came into my head actually as a download. And it was just basically my higher self or God telling me a home isn't a privilege, it's a right. Housing is a human right. Why don't we get this? It just seems so simple. The issue is money. The issue is the economy. And you know what? If everyone deserves or is entitled to housing, then it cuts out all the middlemen who make money off of housing. And I'm talking about on a government level, on a red tape level, because it goes deep. I mean, you wouldn't believe, if you are blessed enough to have a home right now, God bless you, because you don't know how lucky you are. Maybe you do. Maybe you do know how lucky you are. But I made a poor choice last year when I received a large lump sum of money. It wasn't that much to just, it wasn't like I won the lottery. Not to take away from it, because it was a blessing. But I did not follow my intuition, and I ended up just spending it to just not work and live off of the money all year and take care of my family like I always do. Whenever they needed something, I just said yes and got it for them. I, spent money on building up my son's computer. He got a brand new computer. So I did meaningful things with it, but it wasn't what I feel like I should have done, which was invest in a home. And now I'm kicking myself. And I'm trying to find out how can I make that kind of lump sum of money again. So I'm trying to arrange that and manifest that into my life. And I've already been told I will, and it'll be successful. The problem is, I think it's going to be a test. Like, okay, this time around, are you going to do the right thing with the money you receive, or are you going to blow it again? I know I'll do the right thing. I've sat and I've contemplated it and prayed about it, and I know I will. But I still feel like the need is there to discuss how to help everyone have this and have it be attainable. And I wanted to do a video about it just because I think that it's helpful to hear other people's thoughts. It's one of those things that if everyone put their minds together to contemplate something, it would be taken care of, you know, within a few years, I would say. Maybe in the next 10 years, it would be implemented, something major. It's going to take a long time. And of course, in my wish, when I make wishes, I just make a wish that I'll have a home, my own home, with a nice spa, bathtub, and a yard to sit in the grass, and just sit in the grass if I want to, and garden, and have like an herb garden and these kinds of things. So I know what I want, and I know what I've wished for, but I also want it for other people. I'm not coming at it from a selfish place anymore, because when I got that job, I was being selfish. I was taking my job and using it for purposes like power, empowerment. It was like, no more am I the one being pushed around. I'm doing the pushing around. I'm evicting someone. I took all the pictures and submitted them, and then I told the owner, what the status was of the tenants, and we processed an eviction for those people. And I couldn't even face the woman when she came to pick up, a couple of her belongings. Most of the stuff I think went to the trash, because they had pretty much gathered everything up already that they had wanted to. But it was horrible. And I know, because I've been in that position before, where I've seen quite a few helicopters and stuff today. I'm not sure what's going on, but anyway, I just, the shoe was on the other foot, and I went, and it did not feel good. You would think I would say, yeah, it felt great for me not to be the one being evicted and evicting somebody. It wasn't. It was not a good feeling, and I don't know how anyone can take joy out of that. When I was evicted, I've been evicted many times. One of the most traumatic times was when I was working so hard, and I'm going to get emotional. Because I was working really hard, and I was making a decent living. Actually, I was doing very well. In the span of about 2 years, I started a sales job, and I was making commission. And I'll just throw it out there, because I've done another video, and I think I deleted it, but it was about Comcast. I worked for Comcast. I made commission with them. It was a stupid job. I hated it, but I made the best of it because I worked with really awesome people. And sometimes my commission checks, all the time actually, were much higher than what I was making just regularly. I mean, I think I made $15.75 an hour. So that's why when you talk to those people, they're such assholes, because they're literally doing the best they can to feed their families. Again, I'm not victimizing anyone, but just, we always have to put ourselves in other people's shoes. So I've been there. I've been the person that's calling, or that you call and talk to, and that you just can't, you really don't want to talk to them, because all they're trying to do is sell you something. But that's because if they sell you something, they'll probably be able to pay their bills that month. If they don't sell you anything, they probably won't. And it's as simple as that. And that's why it's an evil company. And I, once again, here I am, saying, I don't patronize them anymore. I worked for them. I know that they're not on the up and up, so I don't patronize them. I use T-Mobile. I have to use them for internet service right now, and as soon as I move, I won't. Anyway, the commission I was making, I was doing very well. I was paying on, I think my car note was like $400 or $500 a month. Mind you, I have 4 kids. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. Was it 2 bedrooms? Yeah, it was 2 bedroom. 2-bedroom apartment. I have 3 daughters and 1 son. My son and my daughter slept in the same room, and my other 2 daughters were just living with friends or living with boyfriends or whatever. They didn't really have anywhere to stay, so they would, they would come and go sometimes. Sometimes they would sleep on the floor, sometimes they'd sleep on the couch, whatever. We just had to make it work because where we live, it's too expensive. I couldn't afford a 3-4 bedroom. And, by that time, I'd already moved my kids around a lot. My ex-husband was in the military. It was just a snowball of things. I wanted to try to give them some stability as much as I could. And, yes, we lived in one of the most expensive areas that you can live in. My son finally was stable. He had a group of friends that he started going to school with since 5th grade, and I was trying to keep him in the same school. My daughter, the same thing. She started fighting kids and was having problems in school. My son was doing fine, so it was one of those things where I was just trying to keep them as stable as possible while working and trying to maintain my bills. $400 or $500 a month for my car note, $100 to $200 for insurance, and $1,700 plus for the rent. You do the math. I'm a single person. I was the head of the household. I didn't have anyone helping me with my bills. I wasn't using any assistance. And I sunk fast. It was a complete setup for me to fail. And I ended up losing my apartment over $800. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul because I'd already exhausted every single loan I could get. It was bad. It was really bad. The reason why I'm crying is because my kids, on the day that we got evicted, we had to all go our separate ways. Because at that time, I'll never forget the day because I think it was summertime. All my kids were home. And I think it was in August. And school was about to start, actually. My son was with his dad. And that was the only thing. It was actually good that he was with his dad, but my daughter had to go stay with friends, and we were all standing there on the curb with all of our stuff on the sidewalk. And my kids were just so disappointed in me. And I had tried my best. But in any event, it was what it was. I tried to reason with the woman in the leasing office. And, the sheriffs were there was multiple sheriffs, and they had all of our stuff, and they were just shoving it around and throwing it around. I lost things that day because we couldn't grab everything fast enough. I had a boyfriend, and I asked him at the time to help me get a truck just so I could put everything in storage. And there were things that, got thrown away. Valuable things that we actually wanted to keep that I had to throw away, that I had to make decisions about because we only had a space for enough, so much stuff. And, this was one of 3 or 4 times that this happened. I know that, this was my irresponsibility in paying bills. I should have, people that have gone through this or have learned from this after the first time, I guess, learn to just pay the rent first. Everything else, is negotiable, and you can pay a little bit here, a little bit there, and get things caught up. Yeah, I understand that. And in hindsight, I get that, and I think after 3 or 4 times I should have known this, but I was trying really hard to do it without assistance. I was trying really desperately to not use any social services, any welfare, I didn't want any more handouts. I was trying to be totally independent and just do everything on my own. And I was so proud when I bought that car. I was so proud. It was the first thing I'd ever had in my name, ever. And I think it was, I don't know, maybe a year or two later that I lost that too. That got repossessed. I was still working for Comcast, but I had lost a lot of my fire. I'd lost a lot of my drive to do well because it just wasn't paying off for me. It wasn't paying off. It wasn't enough. I needed 2 incomes. And all I had was one. And I couldn't, the schedule I worked, I remember at one point I was working 10 to 7 or something. And it just was impossible, it just seemed impossible. I know people do it, and I really congratulate them, and I think that's awesome if you can make something like that work. But it was a recipe for failure. So anyway, I just am trying to learn this time around. What can I do differently? I'm in the hole again. I mean, since COVID, I lost my job, and I've been going and battling back and forth with these people in my rental office. I got some COVID assistance and was able to give them some checks based on that. But I believe that it shouldn't be this hard and stressful to just have some stability. There's got to be some other kind of system in place. And, when I've talked to other people to try to get some other perspectives and to try to see what other people do, yes, there's house sharing. I looked into that when my kids were younger. There's not too much, to be honest. That's one thing I can think of, house sharing. But who are you going to trust to live with you and your kids? That's why a lot of people end up in bad relationships, because the other person can help them pay bills. And I mean, that's why I lived with my boyfriend previously, because I thought he was going to help me with the bills. Well, that never happened. I mean, he barely helped me at all with my bills. So that's why we didn't last very long living together. But this is the thing, when my kids were young, when my son's 17, when I was pregnant with him, I was involved with Catholic Charities, and I was renting an apartment with them. And I think instead of paying $1,200, I paid $600 or something. It still was a lot for me, and I was barely making it then. And I was pregnant, and I had 3 small kids. I got on a list, and I got awarded public housing. So I was living in public housing, and I think my rent was like $200 or something. And so I've done that. I've been down that road. Our public housing got demolished back in like 2010 or something. I don't know. I don't know the dates right offhand, but they were clearing that down and knocking that down because the public housing wasn't making the government the county government, the local government, enough money. So what they did is they tore down our community, which we were, after living there all those years, my kids had grown up there and they had gotten friends. That was like the closest community I've ever lived in. I was like the only white woman living there, but my kids are biracial and they grew up. I mean, it was like a family. We supported each other. I remember my lights were turned off one time when I first moved in, and my neighbors opened their house to me and let me and my kids sleep there. I mean, this is something I've never experienced anywhere else except for in public housing. So that wouldn't be bad. I would do that again and have live in a community like that with my kids, my grown kids. Not only wasn't it that bad. I mean, it was great actually. We did cookouts together, we did holidays together. It was like living around family. Those people became my family. Those neighbors became my family. And I mean those people meaning my neighbors. My kids and I, we grew up around everyone that lived there, and some of those neighbors, they had lived there for years before it got torn down eventually. But when it got torn down, it was supposed to be this great thing, and I mean we were all excited because everyone pretty much got a voucher, a Section 8 voucher. And I think that was good karma, and that was something I was supposed to take and do what I wanted with it. Like it said for the first move, we could move anywhere in the United States, and I didn't see the bigger picture, just like with everything I was just talking about. I didn't see the bigger picture. And I decided to move right down the street in Ellicott City in Howard County, Maryland, because it was what I knew. I didn't follow my intuition or my gut and say, I want to move to California, San Diego. That was like my dream place to live. I'd lived there when my daughters were small and I wanted to go back, but I didn't. I just moved right up the street because I figured, a lot of those people who I used to live near were going to move close to me, and it would be almost like before, but it would be better because we had bigger houses and, there was all these perks to, no longer living in public housing. It wasn't such a stigma or shame about it. It was like, oh, okay, even though we were renting, it was like, well, we don't live in public housing anymore, so it's going to be so much better. And I was wrong about that too, because soon at the time I was working in a hair salon and I literally was a shampoo assistant. I was trying to go to school. I didn't have the confidence to cut hair. So I would do everything but that. I mean, I would color hair, I would do treatments and wash hair and all of that, but I was not confident enough to cut hair. So I never completed my certification for that, but I made good tips doing shampooing, and I don't know how, but we made it for a while. And then it's always a man. I met my boyfriend. He moved in with his son, and he talked to me, him and his mom talked me into working at Comcast because that's where she worked. And it was a good thought in theory, but I don't believe she knew. Well, I didn't know that once I did that, my Section 8 voucher was going to be changing. And that's what people don't understand or know about Section 8. You have to make a certain amount of money, and if you go above their guideline, if you make any more, you basically, I mean, of course you have to pay more rent, so your percentage that Section 8 pays goes down. The more money you make, the less they pay. So I went from them helping me with, I would say 75% of my rent, to them helping me with 2%. So when it all came down and I brought in my pay stubs and all that from Comcast, based on not on my salary, on my commission, there's one of my babies right there. I hope I caught that. But based on my commission, they only were going to help me with $80 towards my rent, which, to be honest, it's something, but it wasn't even going to be worth me going in there every couple of months to show proof of income and all of that, because that's a big pain in the butt. And if you've ever been through that process, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, this is a long story. Oh my gosh, 40 minutes. This is why I'm writing a book, because this is too much to talk about in one video. And if no one's watched it to this point, I understand. But I just had to share my thoughts about this and get a little bit of a cry out, because it's one of those things. My kids have a fear of eviction. My kids are completely afraid of renting and eviction and all of that because of the trauma that it's caused our family. Rightly so. But I thought that I had to provide a perspective for people that aren't familiar with the system, because it's a system. And if we could take all of those moving parts out and simplify it to human, housing is a human right, I think that other people won't have to go through that with their families. Because it's one thing to evict, you know, somebody who's just not paying their bills and slacking off or whatever. But when you evict someone who's trying to raise a family, or a whole family, I mean, I'm not just saying this is for single moms, I'm saying any families. To evict a family, you have to understand the stigma, the emotional trauma that is processed at that point on the children. They are the victims, actually. I mean, the parents, yes, you can blame them and you can fault them for not paying their bills and not doing what's right. You can demonize the parents or the adults in charge all you want. But let's face it, at the end of the day, the kids are the ones that suffer. And my kids have greatly suffered because of that. And I take accountability for the fact that I did not manage my money well. I was mismanaging money. I was being irresponsible with money. But I also want to say that there's got to be another plan for the future, for future generations, to be able to have pride of ownership or something to call your own, where it can't be just simply taken away. And, you know, we all, when we're born and we're giving a social security number, it's like we belong to the powers that be. You know, basically they can start, as soon as you turn 18, they know. They will bombard you with voter registration crap and all of that, and then they'll also offer you all kinds of credit cards and stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how they want people to be chained and bound to money and credit. And I think that just has to change. It has to change. There's got to be nonconformists like me that have been through evictions before to change the system. And I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting for this bill. There's a bill that I was just mentioned, the Housing is a Human Right Bill of 2021. I think it's 1722 is the name of the bill. I think 1722. It's the Housing is a Human Right Act of 2021 to 2022. And it's not just a fluke. I mean, there are other countries that have implemented something similar and are actually doing well. I think France is one of them. I looked this information up before I did this video like a while ago, and I don't remember now. But anyway, there's several countries that have already implemented this bill, and I'll do some more research and maybe do a follow-up video, because to me, I'm a visual person and I have to see how will this work in theory. In theory it sounds great, and I know, it's like, yeah, we got help the homeless. It's almost like a what do they call that? um, where it's said so much people don't even really understand it, or it's so far removed from your life so you don't really care. But I think we've all seen the videos, the pictures of people living in tents, and there's people just walking past them, literally stepping over them. Um, and it's wrong. And it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good to me. And I don't know how anyone else can feel okay with that. And just like right now with the leasing office I'm dealing with, told the woman in the email, I said, I've done what you're doing. I mean, I don't know how much you like your job, but I hated that. I didn't feel right about it. I didn't sleep well when I was going through that process for that woman, and I don't know how other people can do it. I guess it's just like cops, when you have to investigate homicides or something, and you don't, obviously you don't like what you see, but it's your job. I mean, I hate to compare it to that because that's pretty extreme, but you know, eviction, homelessness, housing issues, these are things that I'm interested in, and I want to help contribute to the solution, not the problem. And I don't really know how to go about doing that without some kind of there's got to be a blueprint that's laid out so that we can follow it and try to provide a um, a bigger solution. I mean, a solution that will be universal, I guess. Start small, start in the US, obviously, but if other countries have already implemented this and are seeing success, then why can't we? And I actually did a petition on change.org about this very bill. So I don't have social media, so I can't share that. I just basically emailed it to a few people that I know have Facebook, including my daughter, and I asked them to spread it around. But I stopped using social media a few years ago. Well, it's only been, I think, a year since I stopped using Instagram, but for the most part, I don't use social media anymore. And but this is something I'm very passionate about, so I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts if you have been through an eviction or if you own a property and you've had to evict someone. What are your thoughts? How do you propose some of these things can be addressed? What do you foresee needs to happen as a landlord or a tenant, or if you're just simply a homeowner? Just let me know.